Hey guys, so now that we finally have our skylight installed, it's bringing in a ton more light, which is fantastic, especially for all of my houseplants. But most importantly for this video, it's allowed me to install some mounted Staghorn ferns above my mantle and fireplace. So if you're interested in Staghorn Fern crucial care tips and how I mounted these guys onto these wooden plaques, then this is definitely the video for you. If you saw my 2021 plant wish list video, then you know how badly I've wanted Staghorn ferns. So finally I was able to get a pair and throw them up as a huge, amazing display above my fireplace. Platycerium Bifurcatum, probably totally butchered that, but that is their scientific name, commonly known as Staghorn fern. It gets its common name from its appearance. They kind of look like, some of the leaves and fronds kind of look like antlers, and that's where its common name comes from. These plants are epiphytes, and what that means is they typically grow on trees in Asia and Australia. That means mounting them on plaques like some wood deer antlers is actually quite beneficial for these plants because they are epiphytes. Before jumping into DIY mount for the Staghorn fern, I'm going to be sharing all of the crucial care tips you need to know for your Staghorn fern. I'm going to be starting with crucial care tips for the Staghorn fern, and if you're interested in how to mount these on plaques, stay tuned. I'm going to be sharing all of that a little bit later. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm Tyler, and if you like what you're seeing or you find this video to be useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, or better yet, you can subscribe to my channel. All right, so the next important thing you need to know is that the Staghorn fern is composed of basically two types of leaves or two types of fronds. Okay, so there are the shield fronds, which are, you can see this one is kind of getting bigger, and there's a little bit of a smaller shield frond over here. Now these grow and basically will eventually cover the entire root ball and this moss, and they're there to protect the fern. The other type of frond are the antler fronds, and these can grow to be quite long and large as well. That all aside, let's talk about crucial care tips for these plants and how to care for them indoors so that they can thrive. Now, in terms of lighting, these ferns really do prefer bright, indirect light, so that's ultimately what they are going to need. If you can provide them with some sort of shaded or dapple light, then that would be awesome as well. Just be aware that direct sunlight can actually damage the fronds, including the shield fronds and the antler fronds. Now, when it comes to watering, that might seem a little tricky because they've been mounted on plaques, but you are going to want to let your fern dry out before you re-water it. So in a sense, you're gonna kind of want to treat it like a succulent and kind of let that soil dry out before re-watering. Because these are mounted on plaques, you are going to want to remove them from the wall and then give them a good soak. Now, all that being said, what I've been doing is I've been also taking some time to mist the sphagnum moss, and by keeping that just, you know, a little bit wet, just ever so slightly, it's just going to keep it a lot nice and tidier, because as soon as that starts to dry out, you know, it's going to make a mess. And not only that, but it's going to be able to hold on to less moisture. So just something else to keep in mind. So in terms of watering frequency, I would say in the growing season, spring, summer, you're gonna wanna keep a really close eye on them. For me, that's about once a week, or just kind of shy of that, thereabouts, and they may need a little bit less in the off season. Basically, if you're a little bit unsure or it's a little bit unclear, keep an eye out for any sort of signs that your Staghorn Fern is displaying or showing you, and that could be, your plant could be telling you basically that it's being underwatered or overwatered. So let me give you an idea of what you should be looking for. All right, so for example, if you are seeing any sort of fronds that are sort of blackening or browning near the base, that could be an indication of overwatering. Conversely, if you're seeing sort of brown tips, that could be an indication that your plant is thirsty and needs water. Staghorn ferns do love their humidity, so try to keep that in mind when you're considering the placement of where you're going to want to place your plants, especially if they're being mounted. And also really consider what the humidity is like during the summer and what it's like during the winter months, and if there are any huge changes. So it may be a good idea if you have really dry air like I do in the winter months, maybe you want to move them around or bring in a humidifier, something along those lines. All right, so when it comes to fertilizer, if you are wanting to fertilize your fern, you're gonna wanna use a liquid fertilizer diluted to about 50%, and you're gonna wanna limit that to the summer, spring and summer, or the growing months. That's basically it for general care tips for the Staghorn Fern. If you're interested in how I mounted these on these wooden plaques, then stay tuned for that right now. All right guys, so mounting a Staghorn Fern on a plaque is relatively simple, easy, and inexpensive. So the steps that I've gone ahead and already taken, I picked up this birch circular plaque. I think I got this from like Lowe's for like $8. I drilled some holes, one to put a little wire hook to hang it from, and then I went ahead and drilled a whole bunch of holes around the perimeter or circumference of the circle, and those are to use the fishing line to secure the fern to the mount. And basically, other than the fern, the only other thing you need is some moss, and it is recommended to use some long strand sphagnum moss. I'm not sure if this is how long strand this particular bunch of moss is, but I used it to mount the other Staghorn Fern, and it worked fine. So I did go ahead and put some water on it the night before, just so that it is receptive to receiving moisture and easier to handle and less messy. All right, so basically the first thing you want to do is, when you're ready to mount this, is remove the fern from the pot that it was in. Now, there's quite an extensive root system on this. I've gone ahead and basically tried to get rid of as much of the soil that I don't need. And basically, you're gonna wanna put this right side up and then just kind of place it on the plaque in the center. And basically, at this point, you should have something like this. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just put the moss around this, and then very carefully, it takes a lot of patience, then go ahead and wire the fishing line through to support all of it. So let me just quickly show you what it looks like getting some of that moss. It's really pretty simple. Take a sort of healthy portion of this stuff and kind of place it around. All right, so let me just go ahead and get that started and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all the moss in place, a nice, inch sort of layer covering all of the soil and the roots. And I've just gone ahead and basically pushed it in to reveal all my little drill holes. And this next part is basically a two-man job, because what you need to do is have somebody hold this up very carefully. When I was doing this before and based on experience, it's best to cut a nice long piece of fishing line, something not too long, something that's manageable. Go through a few of those holes, make it really secure, tie a knot at the back, and then go ahead and basically crisscross very carefully through the plant. Now you're going to want to go under any of these shield fronds and definitely over as much moss as possible to really create a nice secure structure and something that when you mount it on the wall vertically, the moss is going to kind of stay all in place. So now that I've got this placed on my plaque, I'm going to go ahead and add all of that fishing line right now. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, so after about a good 10 minutes of wrapping the fishing line in and out of the different drilled holes that I had created to really create like a grid of fishing line to just keep everything nicely secured, this is the finished product. So you can see on the back here all the different sort of weaving in and out, and it seems pretty secure. So if you feel like you haven't done it secure enough, then you could always get another piece of fishing line and then keep doing that until you feel like you have something that's going to be able to hang vertically without losing too much of the moss. And there you go. Well, that's it for me. Oh yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Or better yet, you can hit that subscribe button. Miss you guys already. Until the next one.